Good morning. It's Tuesday, January 18th. And today I want to talk about a situation that has been created by the pandemic, and it's the lack of interest with many young people going off to college. Young people are choosing to go into the workplace to get a job than to further their education. And this situation is having a major effect on the economy. The data released last Thursday shows that there has been a drop of almost 500,000 undergraduate students in the fall of 2020. And that is a historic decline, because they expected that it was going to pick up by that point in time, but it hasn't. Since 2019, undergraduate enrollment in full-time colleges is down almost 7%, and that's the largest two-year decline in more than 50 years. And community college enrollment is down 13% since the fall of 2019. Now, this is an indication of the fact that many people go to community college, not necessarily planning to get a standard college degree or go on to a higher college education, but to train to do a particular job. Because community colleges, in some way, shape, or form, it's like a job training course, as opposed to preparation for further education. So that's a big hit, 13%. That means that these people are forgoing that education, that training period, and going out and taking a job, and maybe they can become an apprentice of some kind, or the money is too good for them to wait and spend, I don't know what community colleges cost, but spend somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 at a minimum, I would think. And so they're going out and going to work. And this leads me to think that there are many students out there that are thinking that college might not have a value, that college is not as important as they thought it would be. And I think, that's probably a lot of the thinking in this particular thing, is that they don't value the college education. I think if the job market is crazy and people are not working, and then they get these ideas in their head that the value of a college education is not a good thing, that's a bad thing for this country. Because a college education is more than just getting a job. A good college education creates a thought process, the ability to cope with your existence on the face of the earth. It's not just about learning math and history and stuff like that. It's appreciation for the value of many different things. Many students go to college in one direction and end up coming out in another direction. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing not to get locked in or to have a flexibility to continue living your life. So while many might think you go to college to earn more money in life, well, that's partially true, but you really go to college to round out your personality and round out your experiences, because college will lead you in many different directions. Many directions. And so it's very important to understand that. However, the cost of college is something that you have to overcome. Because when you look at your future and you recognize the fact that you may be paying off a loan for 10 or 12 or 15 years, it's like having a mortgage before you even have a house. In reality, this decline has been going on since 2012, but the pandemic turbocharged the declines. So this is not something that happened overnight, like the pandemic struck and then we fell into this situation. When you combine these factors, the high cost of education, the fact that many don't think it's worth the time and effort, and the fact that wages for low-skilled jobs is going up, So you figure if you got a high school diploma, it seems like a pretty good time to be out there making some money. And maybe much of this decline in enrollment right now is that people have an opportunity to go out and work and save to go to college. Imagine, you're an 18-year-old kid. How much does an 18-year-old kid really know? So if he goes out and he makes $15 or $18 or $20 an hour, and he socks away some of that money and say he works for 2 years, then he can afford to go. And he can afford to go for a year or two to college and figure out how to get the rest of the money to pay off whatever it is. So that may be one of the reasons that they're not going to school. They figure they'll make some money and then they'll get their education later. And they don't mention night school in these articles. I mean, what if a kid decides he's going to make some big money and then he's going to take classes in the evening? I mean, that's not an unusual thing. I wouldn't consider somebody who worked all day and then took classes at night not going to school. So I don't know if those figures are included in this situation. Perhaps many students are enrolled at night. I would assume that the night school enrollments would count in the college enrollment figures, but I'm not sure of that. And then you have many who are just fed up with remote learning because they want to be around people, and so they say they're not going to do that. They're going to go and get a job, they'll be around people, they'll work, and then maybe this thing will blow over in a year or two, and they will go to school. Meanwhile, they're sucking that money away, hopefully. But I wouldn't bet on that either, because, people are not necessarily 100% smart about everything. So what I'm really hoping for is that these kids who are going to work now recognize the fact that a higher education, a college education, and a postgrad education would lead to a better life overall in the long run, because the experience of that college and the knowledge will invariably get you a better job than a low-paying job right now. Unless, of course, that low-paying job is a skill job like carpentry, auto mechanics perhaps, or plumbing, being an electrician. Those jobs pay very well. And of course, if you get a job in one of those fields, you kind of can freelance. You could be your own boss. You don't necessarily have to work for somebody. If you're a good plumber or a good electrician, then you can establish a little private business of your own and make out pretty well. But on balance, if you get the college education, you will make out better than somebody without a college education. But meanwhile, the situation in the world right now indicates that there are many who are foregoing this opportunity to go to college and are out in the workforce because the money seems larger. Or maybe their parents are not really able to work. We got to consider that. Maybe their parents are having problems too. And so many of these kids are not in college now because they're helping out at home. But we don't know how long COVID is going to be with us, and we don't know how long this situation is going to exist. So that's a little bit of the big picture, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.